And now back to Inside Track.
That's us. Now we're on. Okay. Hi, we're still here. That's you and I, Tom. And guess what? We can't find our guest right now. We're working on it, so Martha's going to hang in for a bit. Mm-hmm. She's going to hang in for one more segment.
And our guest wasn't nearly as fascinating as Martha McSally.
Thank you.
Actually, I was going to talk about oil and gas, and I think that's kind of an interesting thing in itself.
Yeah.
Energy. Some energy policy here. The energy policy would appear to be to see how small we can order the manufacturers to make an American car. That'll save gas.
Here we go again.
Do you know?
Here we go again. Tell me why you like that.
Holy cow. Because, you know what? I would think, and I can't speak for you, but I would think that, I'll just speak for myself. I would love to give people in the Middle East a big, giant middle finger. I really would.
Then walk here next time you want to come to the show.
What's that?
Then don't drive. Walk.
I drive
bicycle.
I drive a car that gets 36
Oh,
miles
that's
to the
not
gallon.
good enough. You're going to have to drive a car that gets 40 or 50.
That's fine with
It'll
me.
have to be totally unsafe. And this is just about as brilliant as the Pope who once threatened to excommunicate all of the Beatles if they didn't quit eating the crops. Let's order everybody to do stuff. That's the solution, isn't it?
Hey, let me tell you guys a
Because we all
story.
know the technology for a comfortable car that's safe, that gets 60 miles to the gallon, is right around the corner. But those dirty automobile manufacturers and those crappy oil companies are hiding it. Is that true? Do you believe that?
Don't put words in my mouth. I would love to give the oil suppliers in the Middle East a big middle finger, okay?
Well, whoopee.
And
how do you plan to practically do that? I'll tell you how you can do that. No, I'm going to let her.
Yeah, go ahead. Tell us a story.
No, I wanted to tell you a story. That I went to the mailbox last night and I got my VFW newsletter, Veterans of Foreign War, which I'm a member of. And on the front page was this article about how veterans are getting preferred hiring status in Canada to work basically in their oil industry and their pipeline. They're trying to hire 115,000 people, and American veterans are being given preference now to go to Canada and get jobs. I mean, we have an issue where we've got an 8.1% unemployment rate. The real number is up to like 19% if you count who's left the job market and who's underemployed. We got veterans who can't find work after come back and serve in their country. And now they're being given preference to go to Canada because of their booming energy industry, while we're not doing things like building the Keystone Pipeline and other things that could actually put Americans at work here at home. So I read that article and I was like, this is messed up.
Hey, Tom.
Yes.
Does this president believe in his... Now, I'm going to give him this. I'm differing with some people who think he's evil. I don't think he's evil. I think his ideas may be evil, and there's a difference. Fair enough?
Okay.
And I think his ideas are the society he would like us all to live in is kind of different from the one I want. Might be even different from the one you want. I don't know. Maybe you'd like living in an apartment and riding a streetcar.
Oh, yeah, I saw that movie. It sucked. Not Streetcar. That was good. With Marlon Brando, that was good. Mm-hmm. But the apartment with Jack Lemmon, that was good too. But I saw that 2016 thing.
Was it Shirley MacLaine? What was it in the apartment?
It was Shirley MacLaine.
Okay, just remember because I had a girlfriend who looked like Shirley MacLaine once.
You had a girlfriend that looked like Jack Lemmon, dude. Don't even start. Anyway, getting to the thing about the oil.
Yeah.
Emil, I've said this before, and it's true. When it comes to a balanced budget, I'm a hawk. I really, really, really believe in a balanced budget. As strongly as anybody on, quote unquote, on the right. I just think that the way to get there is to meet in the middle.
Really?
And get there quickly. Okay? Really? And then we can go from there. Yes, I do.
Okay. Now, if you've been stiffed by your neighbor because he's borrowed a tool 3 different times and never brought it back, you going to loan him anything else?
Actually, the word would be lend. But no, I would not.
Okay. Well, how many times have we cut a deal with your side that said, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to cut spending and we're going to raise taxes. Same time. That's the deal that Reagan made with Tip O'Neill. What happened to that deal?
We raised taxes.
And never did quite get around to the rest, did we?
That's correct.
Because every time we pull that, you do Lucy with the football. So guess what? I'm for that. I'll give you a tax increase of some kind, but here's what I'd have to balance it, something reasonable. But pay me first and take the cuts. Because you see, I don't trust you because basically you're a lying SOB. And I've caught you too many times.
All y'all worship Ronald Reagan. Let's do this. How about trust but verify? Let's you give me your spending cuts, and I'll give you my tax increases, and we'll set them side by side, and we'll sign them at the same time. How's that? That way we can be adults about it. Is that okay? Is that okay with you, Martha McSally, who's sitting in the room?
She's the one that might actually
You know,
get the
I
vote.
look at it like if you got a teenager who's got a spending problem, right? Who just keeps spending more than they really have. What you don't, the first thing you do is not increase their allowance to fix it, right? You got to show some discipline in how they're spending, and then you tell them they need to go get another job so that they can bring in more revenue. So I'm focusing right now on fiscal discipline. The federal government. You know, in the jobs report that just came out yesterday, the federal government grew by 3,000 jobs. The federal government keeps growing while the economy is not growing. So we've got to get the federal government to have some fiscal discipline. We've got to show that, and we've got to have a pro-growth economy. As things balance out, then we got to look at whether, you know, we're at the right size of revenue and all that's coming in, but we need to simplify the tax code, and we need to keep taxes at the right number so that it incentivizes people hiring, putting people to work, investing in capital, and those types of things.
So are you going to bow down to Grover Norquist?
I'm not bowing down to anybody.
Are you saying right here, no new taxes?
I am saying right here that my focus is fiscal discipline and in a pro-growth, pro-small business, put people back to work. That has to be our priority. We have a spending problem and we have a growth problem, and the first thing to do to fix it is not to raise taxes. That dollar will go into the black hole and just be spent again.
You know,
so I'm focused on empowering small
So you're
businesses.
saying no new taxes?
I'm saying right now we need to focus on growth oriented policies, certainly
What
back in
is
the
the-
economy.
what
This
is
is a
fiscal
simple
discipline.
yes or no question.
well,
Are
is
you
that
saying
no new taxes or no new tax rates? Because the taxes is you're inventing a new tax, or you want to raise the rate on the existing tax, or do you want to eliminate some of the?
Now is not the time to be
there's all
increasing
kinds of different
taxes.
things.
Our economy is
But
suffering.
the average American is taxed at a lower rate than he was in the 50s, since the 50s. This is one of the least.
No, and you don't get this, and neither does that moron they keep handing awards to that you follow slavishly named Klugman. What you don't grasp, my friend, is that rate is meaningless. It's what do you really pay as a rate. And the rate was 90% once upon a time, and no
93.
one paid it. So can we get real here?
Okay.
Look, we've had middle class households have their net worth decline significantly. We
Why?
have people. Well, there are a lot of different reasons, but we're overspending. We have no certainty in the economy. We've got more government mandates coming down, and we've got so much uncertainty because Washington, D.C. keeps kicking the can. Instead of providing a good, certain environment of what the regulatory structure is going to look like, what the tax structure is going to look like, they keep extending things like 3 months, 6 months, and that causes small businesses, which hire 7 to 10 people, 7 to 10 jobs come from them. It's causing everybody to hoard. So Washington needs to solve these problems, put some certainty back into the situation. We need to broaden the tax base. We need more revenue coming in, but we need to be doing that by having a higher GDP and broadening the tax base, putting more people back to work. That should be our focus right now while we show fiscal discipline.
What
Would you
like to do
cut
about-
taxes?
We need to simplify taxes is what we need to do. So, I mean, I'm not going to, 15-second soundbite isn't going to make everybody feel good about this. The tax code is way too complex. The corporate tax code right now, small businesses are the ones who pay a higher rate because they don't have the resources to hire the people to try and figure out how to get through all the loopholes like the big businesses do. So we've got to simplify the tax code and keep taxes low.
So you don't buy into that nonsense about cutting taxes to actually raises revenue.
We
it is
have to have
nonsense.
the tax
What do you
rate
mean
at
it's
the
nonsense?
right level.
They did it in-
Sometimes it works, sometimes
It
it doesn't.
never
Never
works.
worked. Doesn't
Never.
work. What happened
Never.
when Kennedy
Never.
did it? It never worked when
It
Kennedy
did not work when Kennedy said that's
Really?
a myth.
Where do
They
you
said
get-
when
where do
Ronald
you get the
Reagan did
proof?
it did not work when
What's your
Reagan did it.
evidence of that besides belching
I know.
platitudes you read somewhere?
You guys sound like Congress right now.
To quote somebody who was
No,
on
they're
TV
in
the
the
other day,
bar. They don't care. We do.
arithmetic. But anyway, we've had people
I'm
that are
needing to
hanging.
break up a fight here.
Is
Excuse me.
this name Dreyfus? Is there an F missing, or is that Dryas?
No, it's Dreyfus. It's
Dreyfus?
Ingrid. And you know what? We're already up to a break. Hey, Joe, Ingrid, Terry, hang on. We'll be back after these.
Inside Track will be right back. And now back to Inside Track.
Hi there. Well, Martha's a better guest than the guy we didn't have anyhow, so I'll let that go. We have...
She sure gets the phones are ringing, doesn't she?
Yeah, I know.
Exactly.
And that's what counts. Joe Dreyfus, go for it.
Hey, Martha, do you need some rope down there? Sounds like Tom's getting out of hand.
Oh no, I'm a trained killer with my own hands, so if I need to break it up, I can do it.
Okay.
You know what that reminds me of? Remember Colonel Flagg on MASH? And Charles Winchester said, "Is it true that you could kill me with your pinky?" He said, "Yes." He goes, I was afraid of that.
Nice.
I believe you.
Yeah. No, I can handle these guys, Joe.
Okay, all right. I was getting a little worried there. We might have to do the cowboy operation on Tom. But
No, they are definitely feisty. Both of them are feisty today.
I noticed it's the wind's blowing. Okay. Question. I have studied this in great depth. We spend $338 billion with a B on the issue of illegal immigration. That covers everything from healthcare, education, to border security. If we did what 3 other administrations have done and deported so many of these people that do not belong in our country and secured our borders, would we not be able to help with the deficit, and 2, create more jobs for more Americans at this point in time? Would that not help?
Joe, you know I've spent a lot of time down in Cochise County and spent a lot of time with our friends and the ranchers down there. First priority must be to secure the border. I mean, it's not rocket science. The federal government hasn't shown the political will to do it. We can do it with a combination of the barriers and the fences. I mean, you know this. I'm just sharing this for, the others. The
Right.
manpower at the border, which, needs to be much more of a focus. The sensors and the technologies that they're using, plus a combination of air to actually use intelligence-driven operations to detect, monitor, and intercept illegal activity. So that's not happening, and that needs to be a focus of the congresswoman from this district who needs to lead that effort and secure the border. And it's not, just about people coming here looking for work. This is about transnational criminal organizations, cartels, trafficking slaves and weapons, and anyone else can slip through as well. And so we really do need to, it's a national security issue, it's a public safety issue, and we got to focus on it. We got to enforce the laws we have in the books, but we also need, look, I've been out and about to this whole community, we need real immigration reform. Our immigration system is painful. It's not right-sized. It's not flexible and nimble in order to meet our needs, and that's on the high end and the low end. Some sort of program that allows people to come over and help with the ranchers, and on the high end, when we're training someone to be a nuclear physicist, we don't need to send them back to India or China. So we need real immigration reform, and Congress has failed to, step up and do the right thing to address those issues. And we keep having this, challenge that's impacting us on so many different levels. So, I'm for stepping up and representing the people here and fighting that fight for this district.
Okay, my entire life I have heard nothing but negative things about production agriculture and the subsidies there within. And yet, if you look at the Department of Agriculture and their budget, 80% of that budget is for food stamps. So, at this point, although we all want to take care of our indigent, our elderly, and people that have come on hard times, we have, 41 million people on food stamps? Mm-hmm. How would you approach that issue, Martha?
It's not just food stamps, as you know. We've got obviously more people collecting unemployment for long periods of time. We've got more people on welfare. We have more people on food stamps, and we have more people on Social Security disability than we've seen in our lifetime. And it's because the economy sucks. This last employment report is not given the whole picture. The real number is probably about 19%. So we've got to put people back to work. People want to work. We got to put them back to work. So we got to create the environment where small businesses can actually flourish and hire people again. And that's going to solve that problem. So we're not having to have so many people who have given up, who've gone, off the search and are now on government programs. We got to get past that. So there's an opportunity for hand ups, not hand outs.
Okay,
All right, Joe, I
Martha,
got a list of about 3 more behind him, and you know
Okay.
what that means.
Quick question. Who's better looking, Martha, me or Emil?
You guys crack me up.
We're both uglier in hell, Joe, so I don't think
I
it's a
know
fair
that.
question.
You
I
both look
understand.
great on radio.
But we're both better looking than Tom.
That's true.
Yeah, well, there you go. Hey, great show, guys.
Thanks,
This
Joe.
is a true story. My mother spoke Italian in the home, and she told me one time, and I swear, and I wouldn't lie about my mother, she said, if you want girls to like you, you have to be good looking or have a good personality, so you better get to work on that personality. Thanks,
How old were you-
Mom.
how old were
I was
you?
like 12.
Oh my gosh.
Thanks, Mom.
Have you been in therapy for
no,
that?
okay. So anyway,
Actually, all things considered, that may have something to do with why he's a Democrat.
so
All right, Ingrid, thanks for holding.
Hello. A few callers back, you were talking about, the subject came up about the returned military personnel
Yes.
working in Canada
Yeah.
to extract oil and so forth. I'm not a proponent of President Obama, but what would you prefer, to have the oil extracted from our reserves, perhaps for use someplace else, or to have our servicemen extracted someplace else for us to use, thereby conserving our resources?
Why are you? Whoa, Ingrid, why are you assuming that Canadian oil comes here?
Well,
if it
not-
did,
if it did, and
Okay.
I'm really not sure.
Yeah.
But I think my opinion may not be what yours is, and I'd like to know your opinion. Would you prefer that we conserve our resources? And also, would you like to see our unemployed public, including the military that has returned, work on our bridges, roads, and tunnels?
Yeah, just in context, I was just commenting on this article in the VFW newsletter, and the context of it was because this administration has chosen not to approve the Keystone Pipeline to actually bring the 22,000 jobs into America. So now they're asking for those jobs to go up to the portion of the pipeline that's going to be in Canada so that Americans could go work there. So we actually could have them working here in America if we did approve the Keystone Pipeline. We've been blessed and fortunate that we do have an abundance of resources here, and that includes a lot of the discoveries recently in the natural gas boom and in the shale oil. And I believe we need to be good stewards of those resources, but we shouldn't sit on them. We have a global demand for fossil fuels that continues to go up with developing countries like India and China and their demand going up. So we need to be a part of getting ourselves on a road to energy independence and exploring the resources that we do have, so that we have freedom of choice, within the energy market, and we keep those energy prices low, because we will be dependent on fossil fuels for a while. So I am very much for exploring the resources that we have and utilizing them and being good stewards of them, so that we can get ourselves on a road to energy independence and keep energy prices low globally.
And what about roads, bridges, and tunnels?
Yeah, infrastructure is certainly one element that should be considered, but I am not for another $831 billion stimulus program coming out of the federal government that was promised to bring unemployment down to 5.6%, which actually just transferred money down to local, state, and governments, and going into industries that have several of them were just really bad investments. So I'm certainly not for that. What I am for is creating a good economic certain situation so that we can put people back to work with the skills that they have, plus a good veterans program that uses their transferable skills and gives them the certifications they need in order to be transferring everything they've done in the military to the civilian world.
I agree. I don't think that stimulus was nearly big enough.
Oh, jeez.
So let's go to Terry.
Yeah, that would have
Terry?
worked.
Yeah, it worked in the past.
Oh, yeah, it sure did.
Yes,
but
it did, didn't it?
Did you want to know why it worked in the past?
Yeah.
But we didn't have time to argue about that,
Okay.
because I got to go to Terry, but it was a different reason than Krugman believes. Terry, go for it.
Yes, sir. How are you?
Good.
Good. Martha,
Yes.
thank you for your service and your continued service in Congress. And I think most of us think you just might get it. And you're a fresh face on the scene in Congress, and attractive and very intelligent and smart. And you come over like you really know it. Now, look, October surprise. Other than we don't know what the president is up to in leadership still.
Yeah.
It could be for Hitler for Iran, the Iranian leader, the Hitler, or the Ayatollah.
Yeah.
He has long-range missiles, short-range missiles. We don't know if it has warheads yet or what, but we don't want to find out whether he does or not. Now, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, others are free Arab Emirates. So far, friends of the U.S. So far, friends of the USA. We might need that Canadian pipeline sooner or later. Again, leadership from the White House. Where is he? We just don't know where he is. An empty suit or empty chair? I don't know. Saudi Arabia probably cannot take out Iran. Israel could, and I wish they would. Sooner the better. They have surrogates as we speak. Iran has surrogates in Syria and other areas in the Middle East. Again, where's his leadership? And all hell can break it loose.
Okay,
I
Terry.
have a question for our
Is there a
guest.
question in there?
Yeah, what can you do or say, or your policy, for leadership from the White House and yourself in Congress to rev up more support to help Syria? Syria needs our help. We are sitting back and doing nothing. We're afraid to deal with the Russian Putin because Putin and this guy in the White House are afraid to talk, and so Syria's getting smashed.
Still no question.
Huh?
What's the
All right.
question?
I think his question is,
yeah.
what do you want to do about Syria?
Well, but
How's that, Terry? Go for it.
Yeah, it's not just Syria, but I also mentioned a potential, October surprise with a potential nuclear Iran. So, I mean, just in context, again, I spent 26 years in uniform, over 2.5 years over in the Middle East. I got 2 master's degrees. I was a professor of national security studies. I mean, I've been studying, teaching, and defending our national interest and vital interest, and with a focus on the Middle East for many, many years. And I want to start with Iran. Iran is a state sponsor of terror, and it's the most sophisticated in the world. And as you mentioned, they are fighting proxy wars through Hezbollah in Lebanon, through Hamas, in the Gaza Strip, and their Iranian Republican Guard Corps, IRCG, the Quds Force. They've got serious capabilities overseas around the world, to include in our hemisphere. These guys are varsity, and they are a state sponsor of terror. There is no good outcome of a nuclear state sponsor of terror for the free world. This is really serious business. And the last report that just came out this week, you may have seen it, it looks like they've brought back their key, nuclear scientists. They're doubling their capabilities at the Fordo plant. They're now enriching more up to 20%, which is not for peaceful purposes. If you're going up to 20%, you can easily get to 90%, which is the weaponized. So this is serious. We need to use all elements of our national power to put a vice grip down in order to stop this threat from happening. And we need to not be sitting back and wondering what Israel, our close ally in the area, is going to do about it. We need to be making sure we have a leadership role, which unfortunately we have not had in the last 3 years. This is serious, and it's impacting the free world, and we got to take a leadership role on it.
And we'll take a piece of that after the break. Cynthia, hang on.
Inside Track will be right back. And now back to Inside Track.
Hi there. Welcome back. Our second hour with Martha McSally, who gets a lot of phone calls, and that's what this game's all about, right, Tom?
I have several questions, but we're going to take Cynthia's call, and then I'll ask her some questions that she might actually enjoy or not.
Go
Cynthia,
ahead.
thanks for holding.
Martha, I just quickly wanted to tell you 3 areas that are important to me and why I think you're superior to Barber. One is I want to stop this attempt to impose Obamacare on the country, and I don't think Barber would be able to do that. I don't think he'd even be allowed to vote against it. The second is I want the border finally under control, and then step 2, reasonably decide what to do with the people who are here. And again, I don't think Barber is going to be allowed to divide it into step 1 and step 2. And the third thing is to me, your word means something. And when Barber emphatically stated that he would not pursue anything beyond CD8,
exactly.
he was only stepping in to fulfill Gabby's wishes, and then he changed his mind. I really lost respect for him. And you have to be able to trust your congressman.
Cynthia, trust is the number one thing that people are looking for right now, and who's going to represent them. And having served 26 years in uniform, I appreciate your perspective on that, and that's how I'm serving. I mean, I'm not going to agree with everybody in the district. I'm certainly willing to talk to everybody, but in the end, I'm going to say what I mean and mean what I say. And we can agree to disagree, but you can certainly trust me that I'm not going to be going back on my word, making things up and that kind of stuff. So, and I agree. I mean, we need someone in D.C. right now, especially given the environment, who's a leader, not a follower. Who's got a proven record of leadership, of command, of fixing things that are broken, of doing things that are impossible, not somebody who's got a career of being a staffer and a bureaucrat and following orders. That's going to be the difference of the type of people between the two choices in November. So thank you for your support.
Well, good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Here's a question. Tom, you support the F-35 program here, don't you?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, wait, but somebody in Oro Valley said it was too loud. So now we have to rethink it,
Yeah, okay.
because and the thing, and my wife teaches at a school on the south side near the airport, and she has said that it's rather loud at times, but at the same time, she doesn't complain. She goes, that's, and she doesn't go with that whole
Sound
that's
of
the
freedom.
Sound of Freedom thing. She doesn't do that, but at the same time, she understands. And it's something she deals with on a daily basis with those planes going overhead. And for somebody in Oro Valley to say it's too loud, you just want to, smack somebody.
Who do you think would be best suited on that issue?
Well, if there's only two, I'm going to be better suited. Remember that. This is a grammatically correct discussion we're having.
You'll love this guy.
I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
No, I love it. You are better verbally on that because I can write it and then see it the second time around and correct it.
I know exactly.
But you do better at spitting out the what do you call it?
Anyway, I think she has to answer your question.
No, I'm going to say, considering who this Congress is and how much that thing really matters to this community from a standpoint of jobs. And from a standpoint of how much money goes to the airport from this?
I don't know the exact number, but yeah,
a lot of bucks
exactly,
for the airport,
exactly.
the runways.
But I thought they already gave it to Luke.
No. They gave 72 to Luke. There's still another decision of the next number of training. There's 72 more that need to be assigned in the next round. And so we are still up for the next round, and someone needs to fight to make sure that asset comes to the 162nd. And also, by the way, the A-10 is only going to be in the inventory till 2028, so we got to make sure that when the A-10 is replaced by the Joint Strike Fighter with operational squadrons, that they also are coming to Davis-Monthan because the economic impact is important to us. And, I commanded a fighter squadron out of Davis-Monthan. I trained my squadron to make sure they were ready to deploy anywhere in the world on 24 hours notice for a variety of different missions. Here, I understand the value of this airspace, the Barry Goldwater range, the weather. I understand the value of the assets down at Fort Huachuca, whether it's the intelligence or CECOM or the unmanned aerial vehicle training and the joint capabilities this brings to our national security. I understand the impact of the F-35, why it's important to train here, and we've trained 26 countries here and how important that is to our foreign policy. I don't need a staffer whispering in my ear to explain all this. I can poke my finger in the chest of the military leadership and the Secretary of Defense and say, this is why it belongs in Davis-Monthan from firsthand experience. That's the kind of leadership we need.
We play Ajo High School. You know where Ajo is?
I do. I've flown over it many times.
We play Ajo High School in basketball, and we're going down that road. We go like up 10 and then across 8 and then down rather than taking 86. But anyway, and we're going down, and one of the girls on my team says, "What is that?" And I said, well, "It's a bombing range." I said, "It's a Barry Goldwater bombing range because they have a sign right there on that road."
Right.
And she says, "Well, what do you mean?" And I said, "Well, pilots practice bombing on this thing." And she had this look of terror on her face. I said, "Don't worry, they hardly ever make mistakes." I said, "I can't remember the last time they ever hit a school bus,
God.
But I said, they don't say oops very often. So
yeah, those ranges are incredible. It is such a national treasure out there, and it's in such close proximity to these, to Tucson International and Davis-Monthan that we have got to make sure we preserve those capabilities here.
Okay, we have another full board, but I have to ask you this question.
Yeah.
This has nothing to do with anything, but I get to ask sometimes. If you could go back in time and become part of a mission, would you rather have been on the Enola Gay?
Oh, geez. Doolittle Raiders.
The
Doolittle?
Doolittle. I hadn't even thought about that. Doolittle, the Enola Gay, the bridges at Toko-Ri, or the raid on the Sun, where the Israelis took out the Iraqi nuclear facility.
Can I throw in Ploiesti just to make it?
Just to make it more complicated. Oh my gosh.
Or have taken Clint Eastwood's place on Firefox. Would you like to fly a plane like that where you could just think?
Yeah.
Yeah, go shoot something.
Our callers are
just
wondering
done.
what we're doing.
I'm
here,
sorry.
gang.
Let's go.
All right, let's go to Jim. He's been on for a while. Hi, Jim. You're up.
Good afternoon. I'd like to thank.
Martha, not Sally.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'd
Sally
like to thank you
McMartha.
for
That's
your-
her name.
For your service, and was it working too much together or not enough working together with the political parties that we have that got us to our national debt?
That's a great question. Because I always blame the Republicans for acting like Democrats in the first decade of this century that got us in the
Give her a chance
big fix.
to answer the question, please.
Yeah. Wow. Jeez.
Wow.
Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.
Jim, I've never heard it asked in such a way before. I think both parties have certainly failed us over the course of the last decade. And so, I've not been focusing on whether they've worked too much or not enough together. I think there just has been no fiscal discipline, and we keep kicking the can, and Congress doesn't want to make hard decisions, and then we're focusing on getting reelected, and then that creates more and more uncertainty, and then just continues to ride the debt up. So I think that's just a failure of leadership, and I think we need to change it by changing who we send to Congress to make sure that they're
One more
actually
quick
tackling
question,
issues.
please.
Yes, sir.
Was it a good thing or a bad thing during the Reagan administration that the government was shut down? And I'll give you time to answer. Thank you very much, and thanks for your service.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah, I was actually in the military when that happened, and it was a very interesting time. Look, I'm focused on the future. I'm not focused on the past.
Did you get paid?
Actually, yeah, because military, at that point, it wasn't affecting military
Do you know
pay.
if that there was a year back during the Indian Wars where there was no budget, there was no pay for the military?
Yeah,
That actually happened?
that wouldn't surprise me.
Under
Yeah,
Grant?
and as when I was working over at the Marshall Center, we had 2 or 3 potential threatened shutdowns when I was working as a professor, and so we were going through contingencies every single time. Look, sometimes we do need to come on the brink of having to make really hard decisions in order to get people to sit down and figure out how to solve these complex problems for the future. So let's focus on what we got to do from now going forward. And these things are not creeping up on us like surprising us all of a sudden. Whoa, look, we're up against the debt ceiling. We see them coming a long way away. Let's figure out how to solve it. Let's figure out how to get our cost curve trajectory going in the right direction so we don't keep having $1 trillion deficits every single year. Let's figure it out so that we're not getting into this last minute bickering contest and then we're shutting everything down.
How about we take a call from Gay Lynn?
What would that solve? Oh, we'd get to hear what she has to say. What's up, Galen?
Hi there. Well, I know when you go into battle, it's nice to be well armed. So I have an FYI and then a question. You mentioned the stimulus bill, $800 billion or whatever it was, 787, and we can't do that again. But what most people don't understand is we are spending that every year. That it kind of sort of got rolled into the budget, which is why the Democrats won't pass another budget. So we're spending that every year, and now it's up to 900 and something billion, almost $1 trillion, and it's going to really stupid projects like Solyndra. So as far as tough choices go, it's kind of a no-brainer, easy choice to just open that up and expose the fact that these sneaky little people up there are continuing to spend that stimulus. It was not a one-time spending bill. It was rolled into all kinds of budgets and programs. And so my question is, 1, does that surprise you? And 2, will you call attention to this? And if you don't believe me, there's a lot of people, there's a former CBO officer, there's a lot of articles on the Internet if you search for it, and he says, yep, it got rolled in, even Senator Kyle's office. So I'll listen on the air, and thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks. Actually, nothing surprises me when it comes to wasteful spending in Washington, D.C. right now. So, yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I mean, I'll go back and look at the specifics. And there's all sorts of projects in there, like you mentioned. It's not just Solyndra, but, there's projects to study ants in Africa, and there's other things that are just not good use of our taxpayers' money. So, why don't we allow people to get back to work and get small businesses to be hiring people again instead of spending money on projects that are just not actually helping us and are just putting us further and further into debt?
One of the worst parts of and I think the reason the Democrats don't put up a budget, okay, is because if they did, there'd have to be budget hearings. And when there's budget hearings, you kind of expose the worst violations committed by the bureaucracy. Now, when you're at the party that is in charge of the executive branch, you're in charge. And guess what? There's no Congress sitting there saying, now we'd like to take a look at the budget of, I don't know, the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Pick one, who cares? They can get away with murder because they're going to be continually re-upped without ever having a hearing. So no one knows what they're doing. I think one of the reasons the Democrats do that is because they're in charge. And by the way, Tom, to make you feel better, the Repubs would probably play it the other way if they were in charge. Okay?
Would you be able to cut defense without endangering the national security?
Well, what we're doing right now is not acceptable. I mean, we're sort of salami slice in defense, and then this sequestration that's going to kick in if Congress doesn't actually act, cutting another $500 billion is really going to be a serious impact to our military capabilities, our national security, because we're just salami slicing everything to the point that nothing's going to be effective, if that makes sense, and never mind the economic impact. And even here in our district here, the notices that are going to be going out right before the election to people that they're going to be laid off from defense industries. What we need to have is actually a strategy-based budget instead of a budget-based strategy. And there's threats that are coming around the corner that we have got to be postured to be able to defend against, whether that's having a good nuclear deterrent, the ability to have special operations forces, cyber capabilities, intelligence capabilities. I'd like to see the Pentagon actually come out with that good strategy, and then you budget it. We've doubled our defense spending since 2001. And I've been in the Defense Department, and I can tell you there's efficiencies that can be gained, but it needs to be done right.
Okay. Richard, Gordon, and Tom, hang on. We're grabbing the last break. We'll be back for the last segment.
Inside Track will be right back. And now, back to Inside Track.
Okay, we're back. Richard.
Hey, Bill, Martha, you're definitely the best candidate out there. Wanted to ask you, though, with sequestration coming up, the defense cuts coming up, and the Bush tax cuts expiring, we know that the economy is going to slow even more. It's because of our overwhelming debt. It's because we've shipped our middle-class jobs to China and to Mexico and these third-world nations. But overall, our defense spending has accelerated more than anything else. We have allowed the defense industry in our country to take over and spend too much money. Now look where we are. What is your suggestion for getting the jobs going again in our country? Maybe the construction industry from the ground up. If we could get our job base growing again, then we could afford our military spending again.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I obviously I'm against sequestration, just to go to your first point. I mean, what we don't need to be doing is having things on autopilot where we just drive off this fiscal cliff because, well that's just how we set it up.
Our leaders are too worthless to identify the expenses.
Right.
They're too weak.
Right. So it's like, let's just have these automatic cuts, these automatic tax hikes, everything that's going to put us into recession. I mean, all the predictions are saying that. Congress does have a chance to deal with this during the lame duck session before hopefully I get sworn in, and I really hope they're able to address it because it would just be just very difficult on the already bad economy and people's.
Who would be better suited to address it, Obama or Romney, and why?
Well, again, we're talking about hopefully this stuff is going to be addressed before January is the problem because they're all going to expire in January. So, I mean, I'm focusing on what I think I need to be doing right now, representing the people of Southern Arizona. And I agree with you. We need to bring manufacturing jobs, and I'm talking about our area here. Manufacturing jobs, we need to become a logistical hub for the traffic that's going through, even down to Mexico from this part of the United States. We could have good logistics jobs. We should be a unmanned aerial vehicle test state. That would bring us a lot of jobs. We should be focused on defense and aerospace and biotech. These are the types of good jobs that we need to be bringing specifically to our region here. And it's not difficult. Again, we just need to set the conditions to have people understanding what's the tax structure going to look like. Are my taxes going to go way up? Am I going to have new government mandates coming? So that they can actually predict, hire, spend, invest in capital. None of them are doing that right now. I'm talking to business people. I was just visiting, different manufacturers in the last week. None of them. They're all sort of waiting to see what happens.
Well, we're on automatic pilot. It's like we're a headless horseman.
Exactly. You're going to drive off a cliff.
And I haven't heard anything out of Mr. Romney specifically what to do. I've heard nothing out of anybody. Anyway, thank you, Martha.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Tom, I'm going to give you this one. We'd be better off raising taxes, listen up, to a reasonable manner, okay? Whatever that would be. We would be better off than making everybody wonder what we're going to do.
I agree.
You'd be better off getting screwed and knowing you're getting screwed, then you can move beyond it because you know how to move.
So we have two more
We
callers.
have no decision.
I'm going to ask this question really quickly. If you take office on January 3rd, I believe it is for Congress, and they didn't address it in the lame duck session, which would you do first? Would you restore the tax cuts or restore the spending?
Restore this. Oh, you mean the sequestration that was taken out? Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the first issue we got to make sure is that our national defense is not gutted to the point that we can't address the threats that are facing us. I mean, that's really significant and important. So, you can't just do one thing when you're in Congress. You got to be able to focus on a lot of different things. So we got to, right away we're going to have to deal with it. And depending on who's, running the House and who's running the Senate and all that works out, there's going to be a different climate there. But my responsibility is going to be to represent the people from Southern Arizona to address these issues, to make sure we don't lose jobs right away here and we don't have a decrease in our national security and our economy is not going off a cliff. So we got to tackle it.
No big
Other than
deal.
that,
Yeah.
So
other than that, it's an easy day.
This is like paying money to go to a house of horrors, right? And just
like, why would I do this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I get asked that a lot. And honestly, I got a fire in my belly to make a difference when I think things are broken.
No.
Fix them.
President Obama has a fire in his belly. I heard that the other day.
Well, I used it first. So,
Okay. Right.
and,
I think it's more likely to be her because we have hotter food here. All right. Let's go back to Gordon. You're around again, buddy.
Hey, my second time. Ms. McSally.
Yes, sir.
A little bit earlier, I said, what the hell are you going to do to turn out the vote? And I realized that it's my problem, not yours. And Lori Owen pointed that out to me. So I called Lori. And I am now a McSally volunteer.
Awesome.
Yard signs, phone list.
Awesome.
And in my own electric wheelchair that I paid for, not the government, I will cruise my neighborhood talking to my neighbors.
Awesome, Gordon. That's awesome. Thanks a lot for your support.
I hate to be a convert.
We did it. Seriously, it is about us. It's not about me. This is not American Idol where I'm just asking people to vote for me and sit on their couch. I mean, this is a team effort, and I'm really excited that you're going to be part of the team.
Well, let me tell you this. If you and I ever meet in person, you will still be taller than me.
I can't say that about many people, so that's pretty cool. I look forward to it, Gordon.
Take care, Lord.
All right.
Gordon, thank you, my friend. All right, we got about 3 minutes. What's left?
Well, she didn't answer my question about which raid she'd
I
want to
can
be on.
sing for you.
I read there's a book called Raid on the Sun about when the Israeli Air Force took out Saddam Hussein's nuclear reactor.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know, one of the guys on that raid died on the space shuttle that broke up over Texas.
Oh, wow.
Basically, he was on that space shuttle. Anyway, but this one of my favorite things: the Israelis let the Saudis know that they'd have to be flying over their territory briefly that day.
Yeah.
And they said that we're not going to attack you, but we have to go. That's the only way we can go. And just by the greatest of coincidences, the Saudis chose that day to shut down all their radar facilities for maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was leading my squadron into combat, we had to we fly our airplanes here from Tucson all the way over to Afghanistan. And the A-10's a pretty slow airplane. It's a very long, painful, complex mission with multiple air refuelings and stops along the way and weather and all that kind of stuff. And here I am as a squadron commander leading this team, and of course I get on the radio with when we were in Saudi Arabia, and they had a hard time hearing me on the radio because they often wouldn't respond to me. So go figure. It's the whole woman pilot thing.
Wow.
So I'd have to have my number 2 then talk to them because it was like, all right, we got to get our clearance to get over here, but give me a freaking break.
Well, yeah. And that's one of the problems we have. There's life.
You could have
is
dropped a bomb and just said, I'm
life-
sorry, I went hysterical.
Yeah,
life
exactly.
is a series of imperfect options.
Exactly. But we got to the mission, and to answer your question, I'll tell you what, I don't look about the past, and I look towards the future, and I had some amazing opportunities to serve in combat missions, as you guys know, 325 combat hours, flying the world's best close air support aircraft, and there is nothing like showing up when Americans are under fire on the ground needing help, and you can show up and you can do something in order to have them live to fight another day and get home to their families. And that's what close air support's all about. That's what the A-10 brings to that fight, and it's an awesome mission.
Has how long a service record? 30 years?
Like 77, 78. Most of the models are between that and 81.
Yes, that's 30 plus.
That's 35 years,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a great airplane. I mean,
Well, it's not
that
as long as a B-52.
30 millimeter is just an incredible gun. The airplane's very survivable. You can lose all your hydraulics, all your electrics, have a flight control damage, one engine, and still fly back to friendly territory. It's an amazing airplane.
Well, it's not exactly designed for air-to-air combat.
No, but we do air-to-air combat, and actually we have a very good turn rate and turn radius, and if other assets don't study that when they go to do air-to-air fighter training with us, we'll kick their butt. So it's a really great airplane, and they've just revamped it to the A-10C, and it's one of a kind in the world. And when the enemy sees that thing overhead, they go running because they know exactly what that means for them. So, and I picked it, by the way, over the F-15, F-16, F-111, and F-15E. I had the option, and I chose the A-10. Chose to come here to Tucson to fly the A-10.
Well, we want to thank you for spending the second hour with us. You great guest.
Thank you.
And you picked
Always
up
good to be
Gordon,
back.
so I guess
Exactly. We got a new volunteer. It's awesome.
All right, you probably got a few
Thanks,
more.
guys.
All right, no, thank you, and thank you for your service, and thank you for running, and you'll make an excellent congressman.
Thanks, Emil.
All right, gang,
Tom.
stay tuned for Voices of the West.
Thanks for listening to Inside Track with Emil Franzi and friends. Opinions expressed are those of the hosts and their guests and do not necessarily reflect those of KVOI or its sponsors.